We're the crazy ones.
Are you one of the crazy ones? Do you aspire to be a successful entrepreneur? Then what attributes must you possess to be a successful entrepreneur? This is a highly debated question. I believe it all comes down to one attribute. They all know how to execute. So join me as we meet crazy people that will share the story of their entrepreneurial journey. I hope you'll be inspired. In this episode of An American Entrepreneur, we are going to Wylie, Texas to visit the founder of the best little toy museum in Texas. The founder has been collecting toys since 1995 and decided to retire from the service, build this building, and open up one of the coolest places I've ever seen. So come join me. I think you'll find his story highly inspiring. Hey, Stephen.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Well, thanks for having us out here, man.
Appreciate you coming out.
So, real quick, introduce yourself and the name of the business.
My name's Stephen Gardner. I'm the owner of the best little toy museum in Texas.
Man, this is a really, really cool place.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I guess just show us around. Tell us a little bit about the place and why you show us around.
Sure thing. Opened it up last year, June 23. The front room here, what I have is I have a small little game room. It's all included with price of admission, unlimited play. I got some old arcades, the pool table, and then the toys that I have in here are going to be primarily your music and video related toys. So, you know, you got your Minecraft, your Halo, some Fortnite, Mortal Kombat, and then you have kind of across the wall up here, you have different musicians and so forth, and along that wall.
Well, as far as these video games, which ones are the most popular?
It depends on the age. So
Okay.
what I find is that the older that you are, you tend to gravitate towards those older ones. So like the Pac-Man games, the Ms. Pac-Man, or Centipede. You know, your older customers, they'll be sitting down playing on those. They do like the Tron game. But if it's a younger kid, you know, they like the fight games. They like the ones where they can battle against each other. So you got your Marvel versus Capcom, you got your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mortal Kombat's, you know, favorite one with them.
Well, that makes sense, depending on the age. All right. Well, how's this laid out? How many sections do you have?
So what I have is I have 4 main sections. So first one is the game room right here, and as you know, I already said, the toys in here are going to be primarily your music video game. I do have some spillover, like my Star Wars. My Star Wars collection can fill the entire building by itself, so I kind of have to stick it where I can. But I have then 3 other rooms that I'll show you, and I have one set up as it's all superheroes, Marvel, DC, and then the other 2 rooms, they're all movie, TV related, and all set up. What I try to do is in order of appearance. So I'll take figures based on characters from the 1920s, and then it will just run through the decades all the way to 2024. And I like to think of it as kind of a history of movies and TV by toys.
Okay, that sounds cool, man. Well, let's check it out.
Sure thing. So this is the first room that you're going to walk into, and as I was mentioning, if you were to start right here in this corner, here you got your characters from the older shows, you know, your Laurel and Hardy, your Betty Boop, your Three Stooges, and it will go through the decades. So, you know, you start off with the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Right here, you're starting to get into the 60s. You know, you got your Gilligan's Island. You have your Steve McQueen from The Great Escape.
Okay.
Behind you will be
Good old monsters here.
also in order of appearance, but they're just larger displays. So, you know, I try to still keep them in that nice flow, but you got your Starsky and Hutch, and you got your Jaws, your Star Trek. Usually what happens right about this point here is you can see you got an entrance to another room, so then a lot of customers will detour as soon as they see all the Marvel stuff, and they'll come on in here. And so what I did was I have the front half of the room is all set up at Marvel, and I try to keep the good guys over here, bad guys over here, or I'll try to have them by different movies or heroes. So I'll have here you got various different Marvel bad guys. You got your Thanos, you got your different Spider-Man villains. But then over here you'll see I got one whole section for some Captain America, Guardians of the Galaxy, X-Men, some Defenders, your Wolverine and Deadpool. But once you get right here, as you can see, now we're starting to get into DC. And so once again, what I try to do is I'll have them kind of sectioned off in whole displays of one character. So you got your Green Lantern, you'll have your Robin, you'll have your Supermans, your Batmans. The bottom that you're filming was more your just various Batman movies that have come out throughout the years. It's more of your DC figures. Over now we start getting to the villains, where we have your Harley Quinn, you got your Poison Ivy, your Bane.
I love the way you've got these displayed.
Oh, thank you. Now, these display cases, if I were to actually go and buy like real display cases, the sizes that I would need for the number that I would need, I would have actually spent more money on display cases than I would have on the building, the museum. So what I've done was I've taken garage storage racks and I just kind of fitted them out where you can see I added foam board inside, I've added lighting.
These are just like little strip LED lights?
Yes, and there are tracks that you can buy to place them in that are angled, so that way it shines the light, where it covers a lot of the figures. And, you paint the shells, put some glass or plexiglass shells on the bottom so you can see that bottom shelf, make it a little easier. And then I cover it with, it's just plexiglass, and I got it connected with magnets, so that way I have easy access to be able to get back inside, to be able to add figures, adjust figures. I don't know what my figures do at night, but they're notorious that every time I walk in the next day, there's some figures that are laying down. So
missing,
they're out there doing something at night, but
fighting crime, probably. You never know.
But it's nice to be able to have that real easy access that I can just pull the plexiglass out, set it aside, adjust the figures, and then close it back up.
So that saved you thousands and thousands of dollars.
That saved me. I can build one of these large display cases for under $500 with, between the price of the storage rack and then all the other things I'll need, the plexiglass, the paint, the lights, under $500, where a case that size could cost me $5,000, $6,000. So yes, I saved.
I'm impressed, man.
Saved a lot of money that way. So right here you see we're getting back into the Marvel. So it's just a loop in the room, and you got your Thor, you got your Black Panther, your Doctor Strange. And I'm constantly, every week I'm adding pieces. So even this morning I went out, bought some more pieces. So after you all leave, I'll be opening up some of these displays and just putting some more figures in there. But we can continue on with our whole movie TV theme. We're starting to get back into the late 60s here, early 70s. And the fun thing that I have with this is I love listening to the different customers. I'll just sit at my desk, but I can hear them, and I remember that movie, I remember that show, or I remember that toy that I had, or I never knew that they made, these figures. Well, a lot of times they didn't make them back when we were kids, but all these companies now are going back and they're making figures based on those older shows.
How many years has it taken you to
I've been collecting
collect all this
since 95. I have a handful of toys that I had when I was a kid, but it was really 95 is when they started making Star Wars figures again, and that's how it all started was, oh wow, they're making Star Wars figures again, kind of cool. Let me buy them, I'll stick them, I was in the service, let me stick them on the shelf in my barracks room, and you know, that would be it. Well, then they kept making them, and I kept buying them, and they kept making them, I kept buying them, and eventually I branched out to other movies, TV shows, and all that. And so yeah, you know, it's just something I've always done for fun.
Now, I think you told me you had most of this collection before you even had this building. Is that
Yes,
correct?
I'd say probably at least easily 85% of what's in here right now was my, you know, I mean, it was my collection inside the house. I added to it after after I retired, when I knew that I was going to do the museum. So what I really wanted to do is I wanted to represent as many different TV movies as possible. So then there, you know, I found myself going out there, and maybe it's a show I don't particularly care for, but somebody else does. I wanted to have it where anybody that walks in is going to see at least something that they're going to connect to, whether it's a toy that they used to play with, you know, or wanted back when they were a kid, or it was a show that they grew up watching. So here we kind of skipped around. If we would have continued in the other room going straight, it would have went to 1998, and then this room picks up again 98 behind us, and then ends 2024 over here. And then the back half of the room here is where I have some of my Star Wars. And I've been having the hardest time with the Star Wars because I have so much, and it's trying to decide what all I want to display and everything. And
Sounds like you could have a Star Wars dedicated museum if you wanted to.
in fact, that was when I first told friends of mine that I was going to open a toy museum. Everybody thought it was just going to be nothing but Star Wars because they know how big my Star Wars collection is. And, you know, for me, it was, once again, I wanted anybody that walks in is going to connect to something. Well, not everybody, you know, not everybody likes Star Wars, you know, so I can't have a building just dedicated to only Star Wars, you know. So it was, well, I'll have a Star Wars section, but I want to be sure that I, you know, I have
Something
a little
for
bit
everybody.
of something. Exactly.
Man, this is amazing.
And this is where it would have picked up from 98. So we would have went from the one room over here, start, and then, you know, you go from 98 to your 2000s. And what I like to do also is, not only is it the toys, but for instance, right over here, you know, you got Castaway, I got Wilson, the, you know, the volleyball. You know, I like to add some, you know, replica movie props. It just kind of adds to the, to the collection.
I guess there's no need to ask which display that most people like, because that too is by age, doesn't it?
Well, you know, well, not only by age, it's just by what is it that they like. Not all kids like Harry Potter, but maybe the Lord of the Rings, you know, or, you know, I mean, it's just one of those things. It's whatever it is that, you know, you as a person that you really like, what show or what toy line, that's what you kind of gravitate towards. And, you know, people ask me what are my favorite displays. It always tends to be kind of maybe whatever display that I'm currently working on at the time. So
Yeah, this is so amazing. It's just,
and because the building is only 1,600 square feet, originally the design that I had for the building, it was going to be about 4,000 square feet. But what I have to do in here is I got to take advantage of all the real estate that I have. So you will find toys up on top of the displays. You will find toys hanging from the ceilings. You'll have picture arts. I go to the different conventions. I have a lot of the posters that are signed by the actors. And
then I guess along this wall here is a lot of your music stuff here.
right. And they'll go back to some of our music. Elvis, I had a customer that she actually lives right down the road, and she donated this Elvis on the horse that she had, and it was still in the package and everything, but she wanted to see it displayed, you know. And every now and then I have customers that they'll bring some stuff in because they would rather have it displayed where everybody can see it rather than try to sell it to a toy store and get pennies on the dollar for it. So
Yeah, it's gotten where when you sell used stuff, it's not worth your time and gas for what they'll give you for it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
The bottom here, I get a lot of comments on it. And what had happened was, it was a buddy of mine that I went to high school with, calls me up, tells me he found some of his old toys that he had when he was a kid, asked me if I wanted them for the museum. And I would say probably anybody about 40 years old on up will comment on this as soon as they see it, because everybody had these when they were a kid. Didn't matter if you were a boy, girl, didn't matter if if you were in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it just tended to be that was like the go-to staple toy for those young kids.
All right, Steve, tell us about how you came up with the idea to start this business, and when did you start it?
Okay, well, I have to say the idea actually came from my stepdad. So my mom, they live up in northern Indiana, and he had sent me this article, and I had been talking previously about wanting to build a separate building from the house, but make it just a giant oversized media room, big enough that I could put all my toys, because I already outgrew space in my house for my toy collection. So he sends me an article, and he's saying, hey, you know, if you're really serious about building that home theater, instead of doing that, you should do what this guy's doing. And the article was about, there's a guy up there, and he has a superhero museum. And it was operating out of his garage. He had a detached two-story garage. Face of it, it was done up like the Hall of Justice. And so I'm reading the article, and the article, he's talking about how now he has to move locations to something bigger because he has over 10,000 people going through his property a year. Wow, 10,000 people. What does he have? You know, so I go and I look up some YouTube videos on it, went to his website, checked it out, and I was just looking, and he has really great stuff, really does. I just felt like I had more, you know, so that really kind of sparked the idea of, hey, you know, that is something I can do.
How long ago was this?
He sent me that. It had to have been either the end of 2018 or the beginning of 2019. At the time, I was still in the service, getting ready, you know, getting close to retirement. I was also in law school at the time. That was really my plan, was I was going to get my license, open up a small little practice. The idea of doing the museum, it was great, but it was just something I felt was a little bit further on down the road. COVID happens, delays my retirement, delays the me taking the bar exam and everything. And so I had a rental property that I started doing some renovations on it and stuff. And by the time they started kind of resuming medical appointments again and, you know, studying for the bar to be able to take the bar exam, well, the numbers came in for my retirement. And I found myself in a position where I was getting more than what I was thinking that I was going to get, and enough so that I could maintain the same standard of living off my retirement, which then it was, well, I could do this museum now. I don't have to wait 5 years, 10 years down the road to get to it. Took that lake house that I was renovating, sold that to build this.
Well, tell us about how your pricing structure is, how you come in and how you have this game room and in the museum.
Well, so what I wanted to do was, I live off my retirement, so really all I'm trying to do is make enough money to keep this running to where it's not negatively affecting my retirement. I have a couple kids myself, and these days it's getting ridiculous out there how much people are charging for you to go and do anything. So I wanted to be sure that I made it very affordable. $10 for adults, $5 for kids. But with that is, I also wanted to give them as much bang for their buck as possible. Unlimited play on the arcades, unlimited play on the pool table. I have the scavenger hunt where they find all 20 figures, they win a prize. All that's included with the price of admission. I have plans of doing different additions and, you know, things I want to add on, which once again, I'm still keeping it at $10 for adults, $5 for kids, with all the added stuff that comes with it.
Okay. Is this your first business?
This is.
Okay. So as far as starting this business, or you built this building just for this museum, did you have to think about it a while, a year or 2 years, before you actually pulled the trigger on it? Because you've invested an awful lot of money to do this.
So what I had done was, I have a CAD program on the computer, and so even, you know, at times like while I was studying for the bar exam, for me it was always just something kind of fun to do, daydream of, let me play around. I have 5 acres here that I live on, so it was, yeah, let me see. You know, first the museum location, because there was an old barn that sat right here, was going to be a little bit further out in the field, but I still wanted to be right by close to the road. And, you know, so I built it out. First, you know, design, probably about 5,000 square foot. I did one design where it was nothing but shipping containers, but still about 4,000 square foot. And then it was, well, let me take the old barn and, you know, do something with that. And because cutting down on costs, well, I already have an entrance to my property, you know, the one that you drove in through. If I was going to do the building more in the center of the field back there, I'd have to do another entrance. So, well, right now, let me go ahead and I can just do this, put the building right here. And then I had the land that I could always expand onto. So I wanted to have a building about 4,000 square foot. I felt that would be enough room for all the toys, because there's a lot of stuff that I still have up at the house that I don't have room to even bring in here. But I also didn't want to borrow money. So it was, let me build it to the size that I can afford, knowing that if this is successful, I can go ahead and expand later on.
Okay. Well, how do you do your marketing, advertising for this place here?
Right now, a lot of it I've been kind of doing myself. You know, you put the money into the Google and into the Facebook, but I'm still kind of skeptical on that sometimes. You know, you get your little monthly report from them saying, you know, 10,000 people were reached this month. Thank you for your $500.
But you got 2 customers.
And I'm kind of wondering, you know, how many customers did I get off that, you know? But most of the customers that I get, the most common answer I love asking, because it helps me when it comes to marketing, is, how did you hear about the museum? The most common answer I get is, we were either Googling things to do in the area or museums near me. And that seems to be the most common answer. With the Facebook, I dialed back on dumping the money into the Facebook ads. But what I've done was, I went and I look at all these different groups that are in the area that I could join the group that looks like it's appropriate, that I can go ahead and advertise on. And then I make little stop motion videos. I try to, a lot of them are references to movies or maybe music videos or something. I try to make them funny, and I throw them out there, and just to catch people's attention, you know. And if they want to click on the link of, man, who's making these videos? It's the best little toy museum in Texas, and then they can click on it and they can see, you know, and I get customers coming off that.
As far as all these displays, I guess you just displayed everything how you like it, or did you look at some videos and learn how to display? Because I love the way you set everything up.
So a lot of it was a combination. So I set them up the way that, you know, I like to have them set up, is how I was doing it at the house. But when I was moving over here, then it was I needed more bigger displays and stuff. And so when we were walking through and I kind of showed you how I made those displays, that's where I kind of resorted to, you know, watching some YouTube videos on other people that have collections.
Yeah, I love those displays. They are so cool. When I walked in here, I thought, man, he spent a fortune on these. They look so professional that they don't look like something someone made themselves. But I love your ingenuity on saving that kind of money. That's huge. So what are some things you've learned about starting a business that you didn't know before, since this is your first business?
All the hidden costs.
Like what? I'm just curious.
Oh, everything from insurance to, you know, for instance, you know, the property taxes on here went up because all of a sudden they excluded 1 acre of land in the building from my homestead for this. And it was something I asked them prior to, and they said, no, it won't affect it. And then I get a bill. You know, it's little things like that.
Well, if you could do anything different, if you could go back in time and do anything different, knowing what you know now, what would it be?
I saved a lot of money by doing a lot of these displays myself, and I finished out the interior myself and all this, but there's so much more that I could have done had I chose a better contractor that, you know, would have done what they were supposed to do. When it comes to the actual operations of this, it's just it's a learning process. It's you know, just trying to gauge how many what the customer flow is. That's my biggest thing is I'm still trying to get a handle on customer flow. These weekends typically, or, you know, this day of the week is typically a slow, you know, day. Maybe I can go ahead and be closed on that day, or these are typically busy days. You know, you'll have weekends where a lot of customers, traffic coming in through, but then you have other weekends, school starts up again.
The fair starts.
It drops off. So it's trying to look at calendar of when can I take time for myself, because I'm my only employee and I'm in here all the time. So I would like to have a little bit of a break as well. I need to kind of judge that to where, yeah, there's other times a year where it's going to be slow. That's a good time for me, either take a break to go do something I want to do, or take a break to where I can now rearrange, because I have to keep it fresh in here. I have to rearrange, I have to add pieces. I have repeat customers, they don't want to see the same thing every time. So
you actually will remove certain displays and replace it with something else?
Yes.
How do you determine what to remove and what to replace? Because obviously you don't remove something that people love.
There was one piece that I had to. I had the G.I. Joe aircraft carrier. That's, to date, it's still the largest playset that they've ever produced. And it's an eye popper, but it takes up a lot of space. I hated taking it out because people loved seeing it, but at the same time, I was able to put so many more toys in that space. That whole He-Man section, that whole Jurassic Park section, well, that's where I used to have just the aircraft carrier.
Oh, that's a lot of space.
Exactly. So sometimes, yeah, you have to sacrifice a little, this for that, but I want to have as much for people to see, versus just one piece.
What days are you open in your hours?
I'm open Thursday through Sunday, 11 to 8.
And as far as Thursday through Sunday, is there a busy time? I would guess maybe weekends are the most busy.
It's funny because typically it's the weekends, but Thursday's my busiest day, and I'll be slammed on a Thursday. That's where I get to trying to figure out that customer flow. But what I'll find is you'll have certain customers that want to come on those days that the kids are still in school, because they don't want to be in here with a bunch of kids. And so that's why my Thursdays, I get a lot of groups with special needs, and they love to come on a Thursday when everybody else is at school. Then you have your weekends where, kids are out of school, mom and dad are looking for something, or maybe it's a holiday weekend, grandma and grandpa are in town, want to do something with the grandkids, and that's where that whole Google, what's to do in the area, and this pops up and they come right on over.
I know when I walked in here, one thing that popped in my head was you could have two different businesses going on at the same time, a museum and a vintage arcade museum, or vintage arcade. But I love the way you combined the two to kind of give them a double treat, if you will, when they come in here. When you were doing these toys, did the arcade games come later, or did you even have a collection of these?
I had a collection of these. I had built a little loft in the house for my boys, and they had their own little arcade room up there. But I was acquiring these the same time that my stepdad was telling me about that museum up there. So when I was getting stuff for the house there, it was always with the mind of one day, if I do the museum, I can move this stuff down there.
So what are your plans 2 to 3 to 4 years from now?
Well, my plans are going to be shorter than that. I want to do 6 to 12 months. And the way that I figured that I can add square footage at the lowest price possible to be able to do it quicker is with shipping containers. Do a large deck off the back of the building. Now I got a place for people to sit and relax, because in here, they don't really have a place. They can sit in an arcade, but they don't have a place to really sit and relax. Network with food trucks where they can pull up, and now you can order some food, sit out there on the deck, relax, because I get customers that come in here and they come from other areas and they're looking for a place to eat. Well, now I'll have something there. Different food trucks, of the night, so it's not always the same one. But with the shipping containers, put them end on end, now I can move all those toy displays that we went and saw, where it was all in chronological order, where now you got a start point. You start right here, you walk all the way through.
It's going to be like a U.
Right, it's going to be bordered on 3 sides of the deck, because I want to keep one side open for the food trucks to be able to pull up right alongside the road, so people that with that large subdivision, maybe they just want to grab something to eat and go home, but they'll see the food truck out there to be able to do that. But what that then does is it frees up a lot of the space in here to where this room will become more of a lounge. I'll have my BYOB, you want to bring a drink? Okay. I'll have a shuffleboard table down here. I'll have the pool table. I got a poker table. I'll put some bar tables out here with a bunch of board games. If you just want to sit and play a board game, relax, listen to music, watch my funny videos that I put on the TV. The other rooms though, the middle room, I move all the arcades there. I got more arcades up at the house. I have all these that now you got more an arcade room. The side rooms that we went through, now those will be set up for parties to where you can rent out. But
So you'll have
also,
events.
exactly, if they want to come and rent it out for a birthday party or so forth, they got a dedicated space, and I'll have a little barn door that they can slide if they want privacy. But for times that there are no events in there, they're still going to be open to the public, because I'll have one set up as a Marvel room. I'll have one set up as a DC room. With the middle room, this room, that will just be my spillover Star Wars that I can fill in here. So, but I still want to keep the price $5, $10. I want to give as much back to the customers, as much bang for their buck as possible. And so I feel with the shipping containers, I can accomplish that in 6 to 12 months rather than 3 to 4 years down the road.
We may have to come back once you've got all that done, all set up, rocking and rolling. We'll come back and do just a nice little 10-minute update.
That'd be great.
Because I have no doubt you'll do it. You're
I'm
not a talker. You're like, you execute everything you talk about.
I try to.
Do,
I dream big. And that's that's probably the funnest thing about this, is that you let your imagination go wild. You're not going to be able to do everything.
Because your imagination doesn't have a budget.
Exactly. So, but you have to realize you can't do everything, and by that, then you don't get heartbroken by I really wanted to do this and I was never able to do it. I know I'm not going to be able to do everything, but you know what? I can keep ticking away at it a little bit at a time, and eventually that'd be great if, by the time I pass away and I'd leave this to my boys, if it's kind of that vision that I
10 acres.
If it's that vision that I started off with, and it's pretty close to that by that time, that's awesome.
So you don't sell anything in here. But have you ever thought about having a section of vintage toys maybe that you sell, since you have so much duplicate and overflow?
So what it is right now, it's a space thing. I don't have the space in here to sell. When I do the addition and I create that more space, then yes, I could, because I do. I'll pick up people's collections where I have most of it in there, but it's cheaper for me to buy all that to get those 10 pieces than it would be for me to go get those 10 pieces elsewhere. If they're in better condition than the ones I have, no problem. Swap them out. But yes, I can go ahead and sell at that time. I mentioned earlier that I want to do, I heat press, do my own t-shirts.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Some swag, some nice little souvenir stuff.
I have 7 3D printers now that doing that. I can 3D print, various pieces and stuff. So a lot of that Star Wars, I 3D printed a lot of the background pieces because I'm trying to create scenes. I had it all set up to where it was the opening scene of Star Wars all the way to them blowing up the Death Star, but it's, they didn't make play sets for everything, so I can 3D print them. Hey, if somebody sees it and wants it for their collection, I can 3D print it for them, and that's something, I can sell. So yes, there is an idea to have items to be able to sell.
I only mention that because you told me you've got so much overflow and duplicates. I'm thinking, well, man, maybe I ought to try selling. Well, what advice, overall business advice, would you give to someone that was wanting to go in business for themselves? Not necessarily this kind of business, just a business in general.
You definitely have to do, your research on the business, know what your target audience is. Here it's kind of hard because my target audience is literally everyone. But it's also do it. A lot of people, they have these great ideas, but they are scared to pull the trigger, and you just have to eventually just get over that and do it. And, you might not be successful, but you did it. You can say, at least
I think people are afraid of failure.
They're afraid of failure,
and losing their investment.
But at the same time, what are you going to be more content with later on in life?
Right.
That you actually gave it a try and you did it, or...
I'd rather say I failed
yes,
than to never have tried.
yes.
But, we're all different. I always tell people, too, it's okay to bet the tractor, just don't bet the farm. Don't bet your life savings.
And that's why I found myself in a unique position where I do live off my retirement. I had that other house that I was using as a rental property where I sold that. The money I made off that is what I built this, so I didn't have to put my house up for collateral, the land up for collateral. And so, yes, I was in a unique position to be able to do that, but still I had to do it. I could have still gone ahead, finished take the bar exam, open up my practice, maybe did this 5 to 10 years down the road, but I'm enjoying this a lot more. This is very fulfilling.
That's cool. It's so cool to see someone doing something they love. And that's one of the things too I love about entrepreneurs is they're pursuing their dream, their passion. And I see them fail all the time, but every time I've never had anyone tell me I regret it, because you learn something. Sometimes you got to learn by failing, Yep. But I have no doubt that this is going to be very, very successful.
But going back to the business part of it being fulfilling, is that it makes it so easy to come into work every day when it's doing something you love. And the stress, I went from stress to here to here. It makes everything so much more enjoyable. I mean,
and if you do something wrong, you don't chew yourself out.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I threatened to fire myself.
Yeah. No. Yeah, there you go. Well, I will say too, for those watching, you got to come visit here, and this video doesn't give it justice whatsoever. I mean, you just got to see it. The video is just that small little, lens, but this is amazing. What I saw on YouTube, I could tell it was way more than the video. Really is.
There's over 20,000 pieces that are in here.
Well, Stephen, again, I appreciate you coming out. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate
I know
you
you're going to
coming
be very
out.
successful, and we'll see you probably 1 year from now.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I love how Stephen came across this idea of opening up this toy museum. He took a good look at his current position, did some research and planning, and started putting his vision into motion. Now he loves going to work every day and continues to expand on this really cool museum. I plan to go back for an update within the next year or so. And as always, I hope this video added value and inspired you. I'm Curtis Mulberg. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.